Today I'm going to change the wheel bearing and hub assembly on a 2006 two-wheel drive Nissan Xterra. I was making some noise, some grinding noise while I was driving. I could hear it at low speed, so I jacked it up. And if you grab your wheel, if you're wondering if it's bad, if you grab your wheel at 12 and 6 and shake back and forth, there should be no vibration. But as you can see, there's a good bit of movement in there. So I'm going to change it today. First, make sure it's up on jack stands. Loosen the lugs before you raise it up, and then take your wheel off. That'll be the first step. Alright, your next step is to loosen the two caliper mounting bolts. There's one here on the bottom, one here on the top. You just need a 19mm socket. I pre-loosened everything so you didn't hear me swearing while I was doing this. Once this is off, we'll take the rotor off, and then I'll show you how to get at the hub. Alright, with everything removed and the caliper wired up to the frame so it doesn't stress the brake line, you can kind of tell if you listen to it. This thing's shot. So if you reach behind here, there are 4 more bolts that attach that hub to all the steering components. Next, I'll show you how to get at the 4 bolts behind there. Alright, so now we're going to get at these 4 bolts back here. I pre-loosened them, again, to keep this thing PG. It's a 17mm socket. Take all 4 of these off. There, up here at the top, and another one at the top. And then you'll get your hub out. Next, I'll show you what it looks like with the hub removed. So right up here, you have your analog brake sensor. This is the connector, well, not the sensor, but this is the connector to the sensor that's on the hub. This is a little bit of a pain, so be very careful. You don't want to rip any of the wires out. Just take your time. If you can't get it, cut this part here, because you should have a new one. So you can just cut down here and kind of pry it apart so you keep that main connector intact. Otherwise, you could be in for a little bit more expense if you don't take care to do this right. Alright, so here's the wire. It's got a bunch of grommets that need to get routed into these brackets up here on your new one. And the inside of this thing, I don't know if you can see inside of there because of the light, but there was tons of sand and road grime inside of there, so make sure you clean that out before you connect the new one up. And then here's the hub. I'll smack this thing out with a dead blow, and then I'll show you how to clean it up before we reinstall the new one. Alright, so that was a little harder than I thought. It didn't work out with the dead blow hammer, and I don't have any kind of a puller, so what I did was, with the hub still on, I'm not putting it back in there now, but with the hub still on, you take a bolt and you thread it part of the way through into the old hub. Remember, this is for two-wheel drive. I'm not sure what the suspension and steering geometry is for a four-wheel drive, but then you take, I just took a socket and an extension with the bolt threaded through the hub, tightened it up, reverse tightened it back to, or threaded it back out so it would tighten against this mount right here for the strut, and then ever so slightly I turn the wheel towards, this is the driver's side, I turn it towards the passenger side, and it slowly pushed it out. Now you got to be careful, you don't want to jerk it, you don't want to put too much force on it. If you don't want to come out, you're going to have to do something else, but that made it a lot easier, but it took a little bit of time because I was taking my time to make sure that I didn't deform this strut mount. So next I'll show you how dirty this thing is and we'll clean it up. As you can see, it's pretty rusty in here, and you want to be able to put the new one on in as clean of an environment as possible. So depending on what kind of tools you got available, you could use an old wire brush. Alright, you just want to get all that out. Get a little abrasive wheel on your drill. You can use this thing. Clean it up. If you got an air grinder, you can do it that way. But the key thing is just get it nice and clean. And then what I'm going to do is apply a light coat of anti-seize in there when I press the new one in. Alright, so the hub's on. Tightening up the last of the 4 bolts now, right here on the back. I'm doing them hand tight, and then you're going to want to torque them in a cross pattern to 44 foot-pounds. I got the brake backing plate back on here. Made sure everything was nice, loose. As you can see when you spin it, there's no noise, no grinding. There's a grommet here for the ABS sensor. It's right behind this backing plate. There's another one right here. And then as you move up, there's one here, one there, and then finally we'll make the connection up top. Right now I'm just mounting up the caliper bolts. Everything I found online says they should be torqued to 105 foot-pounds. So just get them hand tight on here, and then get your torque wrench, set it right. Tighten it up. Look everything over. Make sure you got your ABS sensor connected. Make sure it's tight. Make sure all your mounting points are in there secure. You don't want this thing getting hung up on some of the suspension. Check it over, give it a good look, put your tire on, and give it a test drive.